So Apu, the stage is yours. You can start the session.
First of all, hi everyone. I hope you are all staying safe and you're at home, and I hope we can all get through this situation a lot faster. So, to be honest, like life after graduation, I didn't really have any plans, like career plans. Both I was very confused, and I think I still am. But in the end, I knew that I wanted to get a job as fast as I could. So I looked at all the Facebook pages of different MNCs. So for example, I only applied for like two tech. So I only applied for two telco industries. So it was Ruby and Banglalink, right? So I got into both, and I ended up getting into Banglalink because they were the ones who like approached me first, and I had already given the medical exam.
Apu, can you tell us about the interview process in Banglalink and how you prepared for it?
All right. So the interview process is very lengthy for MNCs. It takes about like 2 to 3 months, and honestly, I felt like I was in a close-up one competition because of the number of stages I had to go through, and everyone was so deserving, every single candidate. And so the process starts towards the end of November and beginning of December. So first of all, you all have to submit your CV, and you also have to answer a question in the Banglalink website that they'll provide. And if your CV gets through, you have 4 rounds. So the first round is an aptitude test. So what that is that you go to their headquarter, which is the Tiger's Den, and you have to sit in front of a laptop, and there are multiple choice questions which you have to answer. So the aptitude test has 3 parts. The first one is maths, the second is on English, and the final one is analytics. So the question pattern, I would suggest you guys to practice IBA question bank if you can. Like a few of the questions, if you solve those, you will get a similar pattern for the aptitude test. That helped me a lot. So if you have practiced that book a little, I think you can get through the aptitude test. It is about a 1 hour exam, and you have to pass separately in all 3 of the portions. The math part is a bit tricky, but English and analytics, they're easy. So after you get through that, it's going to take another 1 week till you get an answer. So the second round was a face-to-face interview. So in the interview, they're gonna ask you a lot of situation-based questions. So for example, they'll ask you stuff like, did you ever have a group mate who didn't participate in the project as much as you wanted them to? How did you handle that situation? Or if you have a non-cooperative coworker, how are you going to handle that situation? And stuff like that. So a few common interview questions that I'll suggest that you guys already prepare your answers for. Some of those questions would be, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Another common question is, why did you choose Banglalink, or why did you choose Ruby? And they'll ask you stuff like, tell me about yourself, or even they'll ask you questions from the thesis that you have performed. So they're going to ask a lot of CV-based questions as well. And at the end, every single interview, they'll ask, do you have something that you want to ask us? So do your research on the company that you're applying for, and just be very confident and try to be as like happy and smile a lot, I guess. So after the second round, I think the third round is a focus group discussion, so FGD. Over there, you have about 5 to 6 candidates, I would say, and you always sit around a table, and you'll be given a business case to analyze. So the thing that the recruiters look for in this sort of rounds is that they're going to see whether or not you have like leadership potentials or whatever. So what that means is that you need to talk a lot. You need to say your piece, and you need to contribute to the discussion as much as you can. Whether or not you understand the case, try to talk as much as you can, but at the same time, try to appreciate when other people are talking. Like, let them talk, but at the same time, raise your voice as well. So once you complete the business case study, which is a collaborative effort that you need to put, after that, you are given like 5 to 10 minutes to prepare your own presentation. So you'll prepare a few slides and you'll give your solution, and you have to present that particular slide to a mentor on a separate room. And he'll judge you based on your presentation skill. He may ask you some questions about the solution that you have provided and stuff like that. So after the third round, you have the final round. So after another week or two, they're going to ask you for the final round. In my case, the final round happened like on the day of my graduation program. So I had to ask them to if they could take my assessment like at 9 instead of 10, so that I could reach MISTs faster. So they considered that, and they did change the time for me, which was very considerate of them. So for the final round, you're given a topic. So in my case, I was given something like, do you think AI will take over human civilization? So you can either prepare your slide for the case or against the motion. So either way, you're given the topic like 3 to 4 days before. So before that, uh, 3 to 4 days before, so you can either prepare it for or against the motion, and there is a slide limit, I think 4 or 5 it was. So yeah, you prepare the slide and you have to give the presentation in front of the CTO and the CHRO. So you give your part of the presentation, and then they'll ask you questions based on the presentation that you have given and why you think that your side of the motion is right. So you have to show your logic for that. And they'll also ask you questions based on your CV once again, and also ask you questions about why you chose like the telco industry, why not something else, and stuff like that. So yeah, if everything goes well, you're good to go, and you'll get a call after like 2 or 3 days max.
So great, Apu. So second point I want to ask about that how the students will prepare themselves before their graduation. That if they have a mindset like they want to join in national or multinational companies in Bangladesh, how they can prepare themselves right now before the graduation, after the graduation.
All right. So when it comes to MNCs, you have to realize that they have a lot of international clients, right? And a lot of international vendors. So the first and foremost thing is you need to have a fluency in English. So that is very important. And when you have that fluency in English, honestly, your confidence level will increase to a great extent. So what worked for my case is that I used to take part in a lot of extracurricular activities. So whether it's debating or solving business case or going to different competitions, I think those can really elevate your CV. And at the same time, since we are from engineering background, they tend to ask a lot of questions about your thesis, like just a short summary of sorts. So if your thesis is like very technology based, and if it has a lot of the modern problems, if it is aimed towards solving a lot of modern problems, I think that really helps as well. So yeah, I think um, extracurricular activities and like your English in general, those two I think can make a difference.
So Apu, can you give us some tricks and tips to excel the interview process in the organizations such as Banglalink?
Yeah. So like I said, for the interview, the main thing is even if you don't have any confidence, just fake it, like fake it and just smile. And even if you don't get a question, like try to understand what they're trying to say and just give an answer instead of just staying mute. And apart from that, like I said, for the interviews, I would suggest that you do a little bit of research before you go in, so you can like say something about the company that you're wanting to join.
Okay, thank you, Apu, for your kind suggestions. So, এখন আমি invite করছি Neelim ভাইয়াকে to deliver his insights on how to develop yourselves to get opportunity to work in multinational organization in Bangladesh.
Can you hear me? শোনা যাচ্ছে?
জি ভাইয়া, শোনা যাচ্ছে।
Okay, so
ভাইয়া কেমন আছেন?
ভালো আছি।
ভাইয়া
Who is that?
আমি ভাইয়া স্বপ্নিল বলছি।
কেমন আছো স্বপ্নিল?
আলহামদুলিল্লাহ ভাইয়া, আপনি কেমন আছেন মিষ্টি ভাইয়া?
আমি ভালোই আছি। তোমার সাথে অনেকদিন পর কথা বলে ভালো লাগলো।
ভাইয়া,
Okay.
আমাদের ফার্স্টে হচ্ছে সবাই আস্ক করতে চাচ্ছে যে what was your career mindset before you graduated?
আচ্ছা, so আমি হচ্ছে সবকিছু বলি, okay? So graduation এর ঠিক আগে হচ্ছে I saw my friends from BBA getting into these assessments. So আমার মনে হলো যে আমি একটা অ্যাপ্লাই করে দেখি কি হয়। So I applied to all the companies I could. It is very important that you have a good LinkedIn account and যাতে সবকিছু ফলো করে রাখো, because that is where the circulars are. So application এর পরে one by one they start rolling in, they start calling you for your assessment. So এখানে সবচেয়ে ইম্পর্টেন্ট জিনিস হচ্ছে তোমার সিভি অনেক ভালো হতে হবে, and it has to catch the eye. So I have a friend who works in BATB HR now, and ওরা আমাকে বলছে যে they called me 2 months after I applied. এর only কারণ ছিল my CV wasn't good enough. So thank God I changed it তারপরে before I applied to the other companies. So like Maliha said, there are multiple stages in the assessment process, at least 4. And এগুলার কোনো there are no set rules on how these will be set. যে কোনো কিছু হতে পারে. For example, Maliha and I went to Robi. We did the assessment together. ওখানে হচ্ছে it was complete roadies level shit হচ্ছিল. People were on auctions. It was fun. We stayed there for 2 nights, 1 night, 2 days. They gave us hotel and food and সবকিছু. So career mindset হচ্ছে you have to ensure that you want to do this. Because the work is not very exciting. You will not be saving the world. You will be making money, but you have to decide that this is what you want to do. তোমার যদি doubt থাকে তাহলে the workload will kill you. And interview process, I'll tell you what happened with mine. I applied in November, LinkedIn দিয়ে, direct apply, very easy. তারপরে they send you a mail for a psychometric test. So multinational company গুলো হচ্ছে they give a lot of weight on how you interact with other people, your personality. ওদের সবার কালচার থাকে, এই জন্য they spend a lot of money on different softwares যেগুলো হচ্ছে psychometric test গুলো। I apologize, আমার বাসায় প্রচুর করে প্রচুর airplane drive। So psychometric test, it was easy. It's basically just games. It is what we call the aptitude test আর কি। এগুলো vary করে from company to company. Robita there were mathematics. Unilever it was all games. These are the only 2 that I've done. So এরপরে they wanted me to do a video interview. It was only about case solving, which is also very important. They will always tell you to solve a case. And Unilever I applied in the supply chain department, so my case was specific. Egulo vary kore from group to group, but engineers are usually শুধুমাত্র supply chain এর জন্যই hire করে. So more or less this is what we're going to do. Then ওইটা was related to supply chain. Since you're applying for supply chain, they basically test if you have any business acumen or whether you possess the basic skills of analysis. That's basically it. তারপরে I had the discovery center, যেটা হচ্ছে একটা day long assessment center. So multinational company, if you want to get in, you have to go to a stage যেখানে you have to go to the office, you have to meet the people you work, and it's going to be a very lengthy process, at least a day. They want to see how you interact with people, সবকিছু like full on judgment করবে তোমার। So আমার day long assessment had a lot of parts. প্রথমে হচ্ছে we had some pre-work, কিছু idea ছিল। I had to take my own idea and go to a focus group discussion. So আমি বলছি জিনিসগুলো কোনো আউটলাইন নাই, বাট তাও একটা বেসলাইন পাওয়া যায় যে কি কি হবে। ফর এক্সাম্পল এফজিডি সব জায়গাতেই হবে। Unilever এফজিডিতে কি হইলো, usually they sit 8 to 6 people together and they give you a case which you study and then you come to a decision. কোয়েশ্চেন গুলো ওটার মধ্যে দেওয়া থাকবে। সো অন্যদের দেওয়া একটা কেস নিয়ে 8 জন আলাপ করে। What happened in Unilever is they wanted us to bring our own ideas and then we had to pit our own ideas against each other. It was very personal. So ওখানে হচ্ছে you have to keep 2 things in mind, that you cannot be rude. You have to be very crafty with what you say. কারণ that is how they judge you. তোমার মধ্যে অ্যাসেসরে বসে থাকে, they see how you interact, there are time tasks, so that goes by. Afterwards, they see how you interact with superiors. For example, আমার ছিল একটা mock meeting with a manager, যেখানে I would push my plan, মানে it's more like a negotiation. তারপরে হচ্ছে we had all they want to do is talk about your personal self. That is what you want to do in life, how you handle your problems. So this is where they ask you questions from your CV. And it is very important that you know what you put in your CV. You take some time on it. So I can take on a question only, you can really talk about it. For example, they did not ask me any technical question whatsoever throughout the entire process. What they did ask me though is how I handle my projects, like how I work with, let's say, a stubborn teammate or a teammate who doesn't want to work. All right. So এটা হয়ে যাওয়ার পরে আমার হচ্ছে গিয়ে I had a cheat code, sadly. I knew the guy who was timing the sessions. So আমি হচ্ছে গিয়ে তাকে নক করে জিজ্ঞেস করছি, ভাই, do you have any pointers for me? He gave me pointers. I'll tell you what my pointers were. Number one, I was too serious. I did not smile enough, and my skills were not as soft as they should be. Like Maliha said, it is very important that you fake confidence, if you even if you don't have it. You don't have to have a solid idea to be confident. You can just be confident on your own and smile. That is very important. So after this was over, I had my final interview, which was with the directors. Basically, it was also on the day of my graduation. I requested them to change the time, but they didn't. So I had to do that, and then I had to come to my graduation, so I missed a bit. Whatever. That's basically about it, the entire interview process and what I went through.
ভাইয়া গ্রাজুয়েশনের আগে স্টুডেন্টসদের কি কি স্কিলস ডেভেলপ করা উচিত?
আচ্ছা, হ্যাঁ। So Maliha covered all of these. Number one হচ্ছে you must be fluent in English, because এইসব জায়গায় গিয়ে you have to talk with them. ওরা কি বলছে এটা বুঝতে হবে. So it doesn't take much. You can just invest 30 minutes a day and it'll just work. আর এইটা ছাড়া people skills যদি অনেক ভালো হয়, that is good. That is how you interact with other people. If you're introverted, তাহলে হচ্ছে I've seen a lot of people who made it to stage 3, let's say, but couldn't go further, because when they ask you, tell me about yourself, they're really judging you. You have to be very careful what you say. These are the basic answers that you should prepare. uh, Doing research is also very important. Let's say if you want to go work for Robi, you would be preparing yourself in one way. If you're going to work with Unilever, you have to do more research. You have to know what these companies are. Multinational companies all have a mask. They have a facade. There are things that they like to hide behind. So they take these things very seriously. So if you want to work with them, it is better that you learn them too. That is basically it.
Can you give us some tricks and tips to excel in the interview process in an organization like Unilever?
Yes. One of the oldest tricks হচ্ছে networking. I'm বলি how this helps. So you don't have to know the person who's taking your interview. You just need to know someone who knows that person. So you can talk to them what they like and what they don't dislike. Then it is better if you do some background research on what these people are. For example, my final interview was with Ruhul Quddus. So I read up on him that he graduated from India. He was a mechanical engineer. He likes to play basketball. So you could tailor your answers and interactions according to that. And most recently, you would basically face someone from HR in your interviews. They're always there. So you can read up on them as well. You have to be very politically correct. You cannot say anything wrong at the interview. Like, very formal. And you're selling your soul to these people. So you have to make a thing out of it, make it worthwhile. That's basically it. And do fix your CV. I can mail my CV to Tuli, who can basically share it with everyone else so that you can see what it's like. It's not the best one out there. It's not even close, but it gives you a basic idea of what I used to do. Because I did not do many ECAs. I only did a few ECAs inside MIT, but I told them about it. And one very important thing is they don't really know how to judge engineers. Okay, so most importantly, if there's not an engineer on the interview board who has been in touch with his things for, let's say, a period of 2 years, he's not going to ask any questions about it. So you get to tell them about what you did. So you should be prepared with that. For example, thesis. It is an experience, right? You do a lot of things go wrong. You learn. You have to tell them about those things. And that is how they know what you are. Because now that I've joined, I can basically do nothing. They're basically teaching me everything that I need to learn, and they would be doing that for the next year. So they're not expecting anything from me yet. All they want is a person who is willing to learn what they're willing to teach you. It's basically like getting into a school.
So thank you so much, Bhaiya, for your suggestions. So এখন হচ্ছে আমরা আমাদের question answer round এ চলে যাব আর কি. So I'm handing over this to Imranul to ask the questions.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Imranul Bashar, Executive Director of MIC. So right now we have 87 participants. So I request all of the participants to write the questions in the chat box. So we have already seen a question, and that is, Sorry, Bhaiya, what can I do to ensure the first impression matters? Thing is working. Hello, I can hear.
Hello, yes. I was asking if Malia could answer this. Malia, does Malia want to answer this? No?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So, it is very important that you create a good first impression. What you can do is you can basically dress up properly, make sure that your shirt is. You basically do what you do to be presentable. You can go on YouTube and search on how to be presentable, top 5 tips to seem confident in interviews. There are a lot of things out there. Just do your research.
And then the next question is from Rakin Kaiser Iram. How much of an effort does business competitions and startups play a role in getting an opportunity in Banglalink and Unilever? Ryan Apus, please.
So I had zero. Like I have never done a business competition and I have never had a startup, but I got in. So it doesn't really matter. You can tell them what you did with your time. They check for whether you used your time properly. You don't really care on what you do. You're an engineer. You're not supposed to win business competitions. So it's fine. They get that.
Yeah, so for engineers, the bar is set really low, honestly, because they know that we don't participate in much business competitions. But if you have an experience, or at least you know how to create a business case, I think you're good to go.
Okay, and the next question is from Saria. Is it important to them from which the department the candidate belong? And is there any particular department regarding this?
So for telco, I think they tend to look for CSC and EEE engineers, but I have seen people who are from civil background and they have joined telco industry. So it's really not a big factor.
And next
So
question is yes,
wait. I
please.
have to add something here. At Unilever, you see mechanical engineers, chemical engineers, and industrial and production engineering engineers because these are required by the functions that we perform. Other than this, we also see triple E engineers. So what happens is, ekhane there is bias in the companies. There are already a few engineers here. They tend to get engineers from similar backgrounds, but they're always willing to expand if you know what you're doing. So that is good. If you're good, they'll take you.
Okay. And the next question is from Rubel, and this is a very common question: that does CGPA matter?
I think to an extent it does. Every
Yes.
company does have a threshold of a CGPA that they want to consider. For Ruby and Banglalink, I think it does matter to an extent. I don't think for BAT it matters that much, though I didn't apply for it, so can't tell for sure.
It matters. In at least in Unilever, it matters because they're not basically judging your engineering skills by any metrics. So the only metric they have is your CGPA. So I have seen people who could not get in at the final stage because their CGPA was not adequate, and it is important that you have a good CGPA.
So, another thing: is there any minimum threshold level for the CGPA?
Usually, what happens is when you're applying for the first time, there is a minimum, let's say, cutoff for 3.5 or 3. This varies from company to company. But I have seen that at least for engineers, it is important that you have a good CGPA because I've never seen anyone with, let's say, around 2.5 or 8 to be in an MT program. But there are people from IBA who graduated in marketing with me, working with me. Their CGPA was 2.8. So engineer the journey it matters.
Okay. And next, let me go to the next question, and that is again from Rubel. How to apply jobs in MNC via career fair?
Oh,
Okay.
so I
I
don't know
don't
anything
think
about career fairs. So
Yeah, same.
Uh,
I think every MNCs, they have a whole recruitment process that they go through. So they'll post about it on their pages. So do follow their career pages and also LinkedIn. So yeah.
okay. And Adil Hanaf Mugdo, his question is, Apu, I am from the EC department. So does my major communication of power matter in sort out process? So Apu, for you.
So since you are from AAA, I think you have a better chance at getting in. But they will look into like the other factors as well, not just your background. Because at the end of the day, no matter what we study in university, nothing works for office. You have to learn a whole different thing. So yeah, make sure you have a good CV and you have taken part in a few extracurriculars. And yeah, I think you're good to go.
And in your job experience, is there is there a particular department that this department works, specific department, for example,
Yeah.
electrical,
Uh,
CSC, and other than them?
So in the technology department, they tend to take engineers. So there for civil engineering, there is like ISM, which is infrastructure management. So then there's also NSM, which is like network service management. So if you're from triple E background, you can go to any networking department.
Okay, let me go to the next question. And what should we do from first year for developing our skill for CS? Apu?
So like I said, you really don't have to uh, the skills that you need in office are completely different from what you learn on in university. Maximum MTOs are taken for managerial roles, right? So you're not gonna like code from scratch, if that makes sense, because most of the coding part is handled by vendors and you need to communicate with the vendors. So you need to have a good knowledge on for example, if you tend to go for data mining or data warehousing, I think it's good to have a few skills on that subject. For example, like Python or whatever. But it really doesn't matter. Like I said, at the end of the day, they're going to teach you what to do and what not to.
Okay. Please suggest about how to have a successful startup. And
Neelim, go
So
ahead.
yes, the first thing you need to do হচ্ছে have a good team, responsible team members যারা হচ্ছে equally invested in your business. এইটা হয়ে গেলে the other things would come up. এখন startups তো vary করে from what you're trying to do, right? এক একটা industry এক এক রকম. You might be in products, you might be in servicing, right? So investment জোগাড় করাটা important. Startup করতে গিয়ে first year do not take a loan. That is a big mistake. Most people do that. Don't do that. Get good team members. আর এটা কাজ করবে না in the first try, the first 10 tries at least. So be prepared to push through it আর কি. এটা হইলে your startup will be okay. But it is important that you keep talking to people who do business. কারণ there are a lot of
yes.
things that you do not know. এখন there are three sorts of unknowns. There are known unknowns, যে জিনিস তুমি জানো না. And there are things that তুমি জানো না. How do you know things that you do not know যে তুমি জানো না? So you need to talk to people about that. That's about it.
If I don't have that much of extracurricular activities, will it affect much getting a job?
I think it's good to have a few extracurricular activities in your hand because a lot of people are applying and you have to also compete against BBA students, right? So they tend to do a lot of extracurricular activities. But even if you don't, like, never say no to yourself. I would suggest all of you just to apply and see where it goes, honestly. Just be confident in yourself and just give it a shot.
And you would like to add something to this?
I had very few ECAs. So if you have very few ECAs, it's okay. What you have to do is there is some hobby or at least something that you did right in the 4 years of university. You bring those up. It doesn't have to be a debate competition. It can be a quiz competition that you did. You invested your time in. It can be anything. We usually end up doing a lot of things. So it's okay.
Okay, next question again from Rubel. What is the main jobs in supply chain management?
Oh, the main jobs in supply chain manager. So Excel would be your best friend. You will be working with Excel all day.
Yes.
I cannot Excel very well, so I'm in a lot of struggle every day. You basically work with data. The job is to get the order from one place, process it, take it to your warehouse, and ensure that the goods leave the warehouse whenever they need to. We have to ensure that there is stock at every place. It is basically the most important part of a company because we handle the product and the cash at the same time,
Yes.
and there is always room for improvement. And when you're working in a company that has nationwide operations, you're working with a lot of data, so it can be very confusing and overwhelming at first. So our supply chain department is divided into a few divisions. Like there's a planning department for planning. There is customer service excellence, who basically process all the orders. There is a logistics department, which basically works with all the trucks, inbound and outbound stuff. And factories are also a part of the supply chain. Most people don't know this, but the factory is a part of the supply chain. It is the core. So factory operations are also under supply chain. So there are engineers there as well. So that is basically it in supply chain.
Okay, so next questions. What? Sorry, is from Rakin Kasa Iram. Apu, can you give us some insights on the job opportunities provided by Banglalink for an IP graduate?
For an IP graduate, so the MTO program for Banglalink is actually called SAP program, so Strategic Assistant Program. So what they tend to do is, as far as I have seen, the most of them are from EEE or CSC, and the person who is from CIVIL, like I said, he hasn't been placed in any department yet. But like I said, you just apply first and they'll decide on where they want to place you. So they'll train you accordingly if you pass the all 4 rounds.
Okay, and the next question is from Faisal Mohiuddin. What kinds of work do you have to do in your job field?
Excel all day,
Both
every
of
day.
you.
Excel all day, every day. Just have to get a mail, prepare a file, send it to another guy. That's what I do. That's what everyone does. And at the
Mainly
end of
data
the month,
analysis.
yes, and then you create a deck, মাসের শেষে, and then you show it to your boss. That's it. Meetings, phone calls. Eh, it's not
And
very hard work. It's very tiring. That's what it is. Yeah.
so another, and what about Apu?
For me, well, we have to prepare reports on what we're learning. So SAP program, what it does is that it will give you a taste of all the 3 departments. So commercial, HR, and also tech. So all 3 departments, you need to learn from the mentors what they're doing. You need to prepare reports accordingly, give them feedbacks on how they can improve the system. And we also get a work related to Excel and other projects. Yeah.
Okay, in the middle, I missed another question. It's from Ashik Ali. Is there any scope for nuclear engineers in these companies? So for both Apu and Bhaya.
So, like I said, the thing is, if they see the managerial and leadership capabilities in you, what they're going to do is they will train you according to their need. So, the company might need, for example, network engineers. Suppose they need those. So, they'll teach you on the courses that you have to take or how you can progress in that aspect. Or I have even seen a lot of engineers join HR and commercial when they don't have any experience. So at the end of the day, the company will decide on how they're going to utilize you, not necessarily your background. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now next question is from Rusham. How can we get to know the openings, opportunities of such MNC or telco like Banglalink or Unilever? Is it always through LinkedIn? What is the usual time session? And they tend to hire or circulate their openings.
They do a big deal of circulating. Honestly, like I said, Ruby did come to MIST last year for their
Yes.
management program. And
Yes.
like I said, they usually start posting in their career pages. So check out Banglalink career page, and they're going to post about the SAP program towards, like I said, end of November or beginning of December.
Okay. And next question is from Saiful Alam. How can we develop our English fluency?
You just talk to everyone in English every day. It does not matter if you suck, because you will. but then it will get better. You have to practice.
The main thing is about practicing in this. Okay, next
Yes.
question is from Rakin Kasa Iram. Does networking and connection help in getting a job in Unilever?
Yes, it does. I mentioned this before. You have to know people so that you can get some insight. No one can help you to get in. Okay. So in the assessment process, no one can show a bias towards you. No one can score you better than the other one if you know them. But what they can do is they can tell you what to expect. They can tell you what Unilever expects from you so that you can decide on whether you want to do it or not. Another question that came up a few minutes ago was that if a nuclear engineer could work in Banglalink or Unilever, let's
Yes.
say, yes, they can. But the problem is, you spend 4 years of your life studying nuclear physics and engineering, right? If you join these companies, you won't get any avenues to use that knowledge. What you would have to do is you would have to learn new things. Would you really want to do that? If you're okay with it, then it's fine. Okay. I applied to Banglalink as well for SCP, and they did call me for the first assessment, but I didn't go. There's a reason why. I'm going to give this here. If you're not a CSC or a triple E graduate, let's say you're a mechanical graduate or an IPE graduate, the chances are that you want to work with a physical product, something that has to move around, right? Like at Unilever, our supply chain is different than in Banglalink, correct? Because we have an entire logistics department which has to deliver products. And
Okay.
you do not want your first job to be a job where you're missing out on a vital part of your education, right? If you're not a CSC or triple E graduate, chances are that you work with a product and you would want to do that, right? You want to add that to your career. So that is basically it. You should consider that if you decide where you want to join.
And next question is from Reza Tariq. What were your requirements to apply as a management trainee under supply chain department?
Oh, nothing. I just had to be a graduate and my CGPA had to be more than 3. The basic cutoffs are very lenient. Anyone can apply.
Okay. Okay. And next question from Maliha Sultana. Is it really helpful to do a course on supply chain management in Coursera? Yes, this is what we are basically doing these days. Coursera online courses.
Yes. Any knowledge is valuable. You did a course. You could have done this by just scrolling through the documents and not taking the test at the end. If you do that, then it's worth nothing. But if you do, uh, in my day-long assessment, I was given a case. It was about launching ice cream in Bangladesh. And they asked me how I would design the supply chain for this company. Now, if I did not have a supply chain course, I would not know anything about it, right? They asked me about the KPIs that I would like to improve. So these are the things that you should read up on before you go for interviews.
Okay. And then we go to the next question. It's from Ratul. Can engineer get part-time jobs in MNC during second year or third year? I have both of you. This is what most of the students, engineering students, they want these days.
You can
Part-time
get
job.
jobs at Unilever if you are in your second or third year. We have a program called Sparks. This is for second year students and also for third year students. And then we have an internship program, which is ULIP. We have that for final year students. Actually, the circulation for ULIP went out a few days ago. I don't think a lot of people applied from MIST, right? Because I only saw 3 videos. They make us judge these things at home because we don't have much work. We work with HR. I only saw 3 videos from MIST. What are you guys doing? You should apply more.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
Banglalink and Robi, I think only interns, not actual employees. You can apply for internship.
Oh, these are all internships at Unilever too. These are not like actual jobs. They do give you money. It is not as much as the employees, but Unilever is very strict about the employees that it has. It only has about 400 employees for the entire country. We do a lot of outsourcing with business partners and stuff. But that's it. So,
And both of these internships, these are circulated, right? At each time.
yes, in LinkedIn and for Unilever, we have a Instagram page. It's called Life at UBL. You should all follow that. Unilever Careers Bangladesh. All the updates go out there.
Yeah, Banglalink career page, like I mentioned, both on Facebook and Instagram. You can check that out.
Okay. Next question is from Tanjim Hassan Fahim. So he said, Apu Bhaiya, as you said, company will decide where to put us. Background doesn't matter. So does CGPA matter? I mean, name department CGPA and BME CGPA can't be compared, right?
Which departments?
He gave an example about name department and BME department CGPA. Can it be comparable?
So, like I said, there is a threshold, and not just single CGP or single. They're not going to check only on CGP or only on your background. There are a lot of factors that come into play. Like I said, just apply and see where it goes. Honestly, because at the end of the day, they want to see whether or not you are a cultural fit and whether you can be put in a certain role that the company wants.
Okay, and still now the last question is from Shah Abrar Hossain. Possibilities of MIC graduates in comparison to other universities? Yes.
Um, um, Here I would like to say something is that honestly university doesn't matter. Like I was very self-conscious when I used to see IBA students and students from BUET taking part in
Yes.
different competitions, and I did not have any chance whatsoever. And one thing with MIC is that we don't tend to go for MNCs a lot, which is really I hope which changes. I hope that changes in the future. But yeah, at the end of the day university really doesn't matter. They couldn't care less where you come from, as long as you have what it takes to be a manager, as long as, like we said about the qualities, if you have those, you are good to go at the end of the day. Your university really doesn't matter at all.
And
যখন নতুন
Neelim
কারোর
bhai?
সাথে কথা বলি তখন হচ্ছে কি আমাকে প্রথমে জিজ্ঞেস করে, ও তুমি ইঞ্জিনিয়ার, তুমি কি বুয়েটের? আমি বলি না ভাইয়া। তো বলে যে তুমি কি আইটি? আমি বললাম না ভাইয়া। তারপর বলে তুমি কোত্থেকে আসলে তাহলে? হাসানুল্লাহ। দেন আই সে যে না ভাই আমি এমআইসি থেকে আসছি। সো এটা হচ্ছে কি লোকজন নাই দেখে জানে না, বাট হোপফুলি জানবে। যেমন আমি এবার দেখলাম for the ULIPia, they assign একটা quota for universities. So most universities did not have this before, but আমাদেরকে এবার দুইটা quota
Okay.
দিচ্ছে out of 35. That is good. So you people should
Yes,
apply
yes.
more. আমি জানি যে Unilever ক্যাম্পাস অ্যাম্বাসেডর আছে আমাদের, সো ওরা যদি একটু অ্যাক্টিভ হয়, মেক পিপল অ্যাপ্লাই আরো বেশি করে, তাহলে ইজ গুড।
Okay. And okay, till now the last question. Does sorry no another two question. Does university name or type matter in the interview? University reputations.
নো ইট ডাজন্ট।
It doesn't. And honestly, in Ruby, they also told us not to wear anything that would give away our universities,
Okay.
because that they really wanted their interview system to be very fair.
Okay, and another question for Maliha Apu. Do software developers do need to go through this selection procedure?
So what I talked about was about MTO positions, management roles, right? When it comes to software engineers, big companies usually won't hire a fresh graduate, right? So they are going to hire lead engineers or specialists. So if you want to go for software engineering companies, I would suggest like going for software engineering companies first, have some experience, and then apply to these companies.
Okay, I think we have our question session has almost ended, and now I like to hand over my floor to Nosin Tasnim Tuli Apu. Apu, please.
Thank you so much, Maliha and Neelim Bhaiya, to collaborate with us in this session. And we are hopeful to collaborate with you in the future. And thank you so much, everyone, to stay with us and stay tuned in our FB page for further updates. So thank you.